The training ground was in an uproar. No one could believe their eyes. The genius of the Qin family, the pride of his clan, and a rising star, Qin Kun, had been defeated by Qin Tian, the so-called failure with a damaged Dantian and a mere first-stage martial artist's strength. And it wasn't just a defeat. It was a crushing blow, instant and overwhelming. This was the same Qin Tian who had been expelled from the Qin family, the disgrace of Qingye City, the same lowly servant mocked by everyone at the Hibiscus Tavern. The crowd's minds seemed twisted, unable to process this sudden turn of events. The once lively training ground turned deathly silent, an oppressive atmosphere hanging heavily in the air. Hundreds of eyes stared at Qin Tian. His gaze was sharp and proud, as cold as a blade. This one move declared loudly, the genius Qin Tian had returned. Defeating Qin Kun with a single strike was a feat that even a ninth-stage martial artist would struggle to achieve. But how had Qin Tian done it? Was his strength truly just at the first stage, or had he reached a terrifying new realm? For a long moment, silence reigned, but then the training ground erupted in a frenzy. The fallen prodigy had made his triumphant return, ruthlessly defeating the one who mocked him for 5 years. Now, those who had scorned and distanced themselves from him felt a chill run down their spines as they met his cold, piercing gaze. "Master, isn't this a bit too high profile?" Meng Lei dusted himself off, grinning broadly. Seeing Qin Kun lying motionless on the ground filled his heart with joy. "High profile?" Qin Tian chuckled. "This was just a warning. They all need to know one thing. I'm back." "Well said, I'm back." A voice filled with murderous intent rang out from above the training ground. Before the words had even faded, a giant hand materialized out of thin air, reaching straight for Qin Tian. Startled, Qin Tian's expression darkened. His legs shot backward like a runaway horse, retreating swiftly and methodically. "Let's see where you'll run." Another cold voice snarled as the giant hand accelerated, sealing off all avenues of escape. There was no way out, no room to dodge. He seemed trapped in an inescapable predicament. The massive hand, formed entirely of condensed qi, felt as solid as steel despite its mist-like appearance. Its grasp could crush a man to pieces, showing just how much hatred lay behind this attack. Qin Tian had no doubt. It was Qin Shangtian, the very man who had schemed against him time and time again. The thought sparked a storm of rage within him. He stopped retreating. Instead, he surged forward, fury blazing in his heart. The Dragon Elephant Void Sutra within him roared to life. His chi surged wildly, a force as sharp as a sword thrusting toward the heavens. He met the giant hand head-on. Everyone thought him mad. No one believed a mere martial artist, regardless of his talent, could hope to break a technique forged by a peak-gathering spirit stage expert. But there was no room for retreat. He had nowhere left to run. The wind howled in his face, its cutting edge like blades slicing his skin. Gritting his teeth, Qin Tian focused all his qi into a single point, throwing his entire being into the attack. Inside, the system alerts rang incessantly. Qi consumed, 10 points. Qi consumed, 10 points. As his reserves neared depletion, Qin Tian leapt into the air, striking downward with both hands. The palm strike unleashed tens of thousands of qi points, an awe-inspiring force. Fueled by the Dragon Elephant Void Sutra, this was power in its purest form. Without draining his qi reserves completely, he could never wield its full might. In a split second, the two forces collided. Qi clashed violently, emitting a blinding light that filled the sky. The brilliance was so intense that it could burn eyes blind. Qin Shangtian's shock was palpable. He could not believe that Qin Tian had summoned such a formidable force. His heart trembled, but his hands channeled even more qi into the attack. "Break!" Suspended in midair, Qin Tian roared furiously. His palms pressed downward with all his might. The very air quaked with violent tremors. Thunder roared from the heavens. Boom! The entire training ground shook, as if a giant beast were stirring beneath the earth. Buildings trembled. Weak disciples grew dizzy and staggered. The qi-forged giant hand dissipated into nothingness. The ground cracked beneath them. Qin Tian stood at the center of a massive crater, hands braced on the ground, his face pale. He had crushed the giant hand. He had shattered the technique of a peak, gathering spirit stage master. Shock filled the air. Words failed to capture the crowd's astonishment. This wasn't just a victory, it was an epic triumph. A clash of titans, a battle that stirred their souls. As Qin Tian slowly stood up, his eyes fixed on a point in the crowd. Following his gaze, the people parted. There stood Sheng Tian, eyes bloodshot with rage, fists clenched so tightly his bones cracked audibly. Humiliated, utterly humiliated. His technique, perfected over decades, had been crushed before all. The murderous aura radiating from him grew even stronger. He stepped toward Qin Tian, each step deliberate and deadly. He was ready to kill. Qin Tian froze, his eyes suddenly lighting up with joy. Is he insane? Why is he smiling? Doesn't he see the killing intent? Master! Master! But in Qin Tian's eyes, Qin Shangqian was no longer a man. He was a boss. A golden bright, shining boss. Golden light rose from under Qin Shangqian's feet. His body gleamed, exactly like the fearsome bosses of video games. Qin Tian was astonished. Could people become bosses just like beasts? If that was true, did killing humans also grant experience points? This revelation thrilled him, though he was far from calm. His strength, at the 6th stage of martial arts, was no match for Qin Shangqian. Still, as he had drained his qi for the final strike, he sensed something. Another presence. Someone even more terrifying than Qin Shangqian. The one person in the Qin family whose power surpassed all, Qin Zhantian, the family patriarch. Though his qi was nearly depleted, Qin Tian stood firm, unafraid.